deal done, and now for some, a new reality.
That we could lose up to £300,000 this year.
Are you worried?
Yeah, terrified, to be honest.
For some, fear. For some, anger.
It was nothing like the promise that we was given, and I'm furious.
This is a Brexit story about bees, cheese, and big fat pigs.
Well, it smells wonderful. I'm glad.
Welcome to Neil's Yard Dairy, where they do a surprisingly good trade in selling cheese to the French, as well as many other EU nations. But in January, EU sales dropped to zero, and thanks to new red tape, the little that is being sold is taking a while.
If we can get it to market, this used to take us 5 days, and it will now take us probably 15 days.
The whole industry says they've had problems with EU customs staff and paperwork. Wrong fonts, wrong page numbering, and apparently here, wrong paperwork itself issued by the government.
Health certificates which are in place on this side do not appear to fill the requirements of the EU.
So even if you fill the paperwork in, it's not the right paperwork?
If you fill the paperwork in correctly, it's still very much hit and miss whether your goods will be allowed through.
These are the so-called teething issues of Brexit, and the government says they're working with the EU to iron out delays.
How many weeks ago should these have gone?
Probably about 3 weeks ago now.
3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
They're lively.
Yeah, they're lively, they're hungry.
For some industries, though, their problems are baked into the Brexit deal itself.
Within the deal that was set up with the EU, our meat exports are liable to 30% checks. New Zealand, for example, as another third country, are only liable to 1% checks. So every load that's going through is requiring such scrutiny that on fresh produce that just isn't sustainable.
Trade here with the EU is down 50%, but Jack's family firm owns 2,000 pigs, and those not being sold still need to be fed.
Every day, each one of these pigs is eating through about 4 kilos of this feed. And the bigger they get, the fatter they get, the hungrier they get, the more they keep eating. The Brexit bill, much like these pigs themselves, is getting bigger by the day.
Big fat pigs actually present a big fat problem. Abattoirs simply don't want them this big, and meat stores are filling up. At this rate, Jack's losing £20 on every pig. So delays and depressed demand down to Brexit are costing him heavily.
Well, if you run the costs that I've looked at, and you say that we might lose up to £300,000 a year, I certainly won't be in it for a long time if we're going to do that. And I think we could see, anything up to 15% of producers in the UK go out of business if this goes on much longer.
That concern is echoed across an industry that estimates right now there are 100,000 pigs on UK farms that would have gone to slaughter but for Brexit. So some industries have teething problems, some industries are on their knees, some are floating in the wind.
The Northern Ireland Protocol doesn't know what it's doing at the moment, so we can't ship any parcels to Northern Ireland because everything gets rejected. And it's the same in most of Europe. As soon as it lands in France, it just gets sent back. What's happening with this bloody hat?
But hats and exports aren't Patrick's major problem right now. 15 million bee imports are. He's bought £300,000 worth of bees from Italy and is now planning to import them via Ireland and Northern Ireland. Is he allowed? Well, it's a grey area, and Patrick says government isn't giving him a straight answer.
It sounds like a bit of a punt, though.
It is a punt. I don't have any choice. I've got £300,000 worth of bees that I've got to pay for. What do you want me to do with them? We're going to, drive them to France somewhere and just let them go?
This is bigger than bees, says Patrick. It's about the fruit farms that need them for pollination. No bees, no fruit, lots more imports from Europe.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, go on.
Go on, a few years back, when you were asked remain or leave.
I left. Yeah, absolutely.
Is this quite how you imagine Brexit panning out?
Nothing like it. It was nothing like the promise that we was given. No, we were bid sold down the river.
Be it bees, cheese or pigs, the government says it's working with Europe to iron out problems and providing support at home. They also say there will be opportunities from being outside the EU, and they're working with business to realise them. In the meantime, though, some industries are wallowing and hoping they last to see those benefits.
Paul McNamara reporting. Well, on last night's programme, we asked the Environment Secretary George Eustice about the delay of up to 56 hours that Neal's Yard Dairy told us it experienced on a truck stuck at Calais. This was his response.
Well, I think that would be the exception. We've been monitoring those times quite closely. It's now the case that around 55% of consignments are getting through in less than an hour, typically about 45 minutes, and around over 90% are getting through within 3 hours.
And that was George Eustice last night. Well, earlier I spoke to Ireland's Minister for European Affairs, Thomas Byrne, and I started by asking him whether all the trade disruption, including on the Northern Ireland border, should make clear to everyone how high the stakes are on the island of Ireland.
Well, it certainly reminded of how high the political stakes are, because we had a similar situation with the Internal Market Bill, which of course went on for months when Britain purported to break international law. Thankfully, that was resolved as well, and we bore no ill feeling at that time. We moved on because we know that that's in the best interests of all of the people of Northern Ireland, that both sides, whether it's the European Union and Britain or Britain and Ireland, that we know that we work best together and the people of Northern Ireland are best served when we're sitting around a table talking with both communities and making sure that we're trying to look for solutions rather than dwelling on problems.
But there is a real danger there, isn't there, on the island of Ireland, is that if there's any hint of a hard border at all, then sectarian violence could flare up again quite easily. And we saw that in recent weeks.
Well, first of all, there's no hint of a hard border on the island of Ireland, and that's because of the protocol. Brexit presented Ireland and the island of Ireland with a problem. The protocol then becomes the answer to that. But what we see with the Internal Market Bill and what we saw briefly with Article 16 is that when one side on the Northern Ireland issue, or any issue surrounding it, takes a unilateral action, there is an equal but opposite reaction usually, and that can, of course, always have the potential to degenerate into things that we don't want to happen.
If you speak to the DUP in Northern Ireland, they will say actually they hate the idea of this so-called border on the Irish Sea. They think that's the thin end of the wedge and the end of the union as far as they are concerned. So what can you say to them to reassure them while at the same time reassuring Brussels that the single market will stay intact?
Well, what we'll say is, we'll speak hard truth first. This is a result of Brexit. The protocol is the answer to Brexit. The DUP supported Brexit. If Theresa May's original deal had gone through, this would not be an issue. This is the next best solution, but it is a solution that has advantages. And I say this very clearly to the DUP and to all our unionist neighbours and friends. Your identity, your aspirations, your union is not under threat unless the people of Northern Ireland just make that change and decide otherwise. And quite frankly, that's not likely anytime soon. So what we've got to do is make sure that the protocol works, that the economy can develop, that we can attract jobs and investment and progress Northern Ireland and not feel under threat.
But there will be a degree of uncertainty as a result of this new reality, won't there? There's just no way of getting around that, whatever's agreed between London and Brussels. So I just want to ask you finally, Thomas Byrne, whether in Dublin, although the European Union has been fighting on your behalf, you're a member of the European Union, do you in Dublin feel as if you're falling between two stools, the European stool and the Brexit Britain stool?
No, we are
caught in the middle.
Stool. No, we're not, in fact. We are the European stool. So today at the Joint Committee, we are there on the European delegation as a member state. And what we've got to do and what we're trying to do as part of that European stool is to engage in Northern Ireland and to show the interests of the European Union in Northern Ireland. We saw that last week with Maros Šefčovič. I think very good engagement in Northern Ireland, listening to the people and showing Northern Ireland that the European Union and indeed Britain is interested in them, and that type of engagement on a cross-community basis is going to continue. And we're pushing that as members, as full members and full part of the European Union. That's what we see our mission as.
Thomas Byrne, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.